Alright, today I'm just waiting for me taper pins to arrive, and also the taper pin reamer. Hopefully be here today, maybe tomorrow. We'll see what turns up. But anyway, I've been looking at the clutch mechanism for the automatic feed on the planer, and what we have is a thread on here, very fine thread, you can see. And this is the mating component, this is the clutch plate. This screws onto that. Yeah. I've showed you that previously. Okay, you'll see they don't line up. That's not an issue for me. I'm not going to be drilling. I'm not going to be drilling in here. I don't like that at all. So what I've done instead is I've drilled there. I've drilled and tapped and put a grub screw in. And what that does now, that I actually timed it so this is tight on there, the grub screw sits in that hole that was made previously. So we're not wasting any new threads, and we're not damaging any existing threads. We've had to break through the thread here, but where we've broke through is an area where the threads aren't going to be used because they're over this hole. So it seems to work quite well. The only problem was, when I started to assemble the clutch, I realised I couldn't get an Allen key in. Let's just have a look. Here is the body. That's the clutch disc, leather disc. You put that in. How would you get the Allen key in there? You can't. So what I came up with was I've drilled a hole through this, and what happens now is that goes through. Where's the hole gone? That's there, look here. And it goes in like that. What we'll do, we'll assemble this on the clutch and make sure we can get that through, and we can tighten that grub screw onto the shaft. We don't want it to come undone, but I'm going to do that now. Okay, what I've done here is I've put I've assembled this. That's tight up against the shoulder on the shaft. I've passed that through, and we can tighten that grub screw, and I can undo it as well. So that'll be okay, that'll be nice that will. I put something on there and tighten that. Got to be careful, it's a small Allen key, so we don't want to bend and twist it. We don't need too much force anyway. It's sitting in that little notch there, which was half the thread. So it's got somewhere to sit. It's not going to move, that isn't now. But I'm quite pleased with that. It's a lot more positive. And I think that because this was loose before, that's causing a lot of problems on this mechanism here. Anyway, I'm going to reassemble this just as a test, and we'll have a look, see what it looks like. Alright, I've put the other half of the drive mechanism on, and I've just pinched these just to give a little bit of resistance, but that's a lot better, that is now. I feel a little resistance there, that's exactly what we want. There's no oil in this yet. You have to put oil in, else you're not going to lubricate the bearings. Just enough resistance, and then what we can do, we can fine tune the tension that we put on this when we get it operational, and then we'll clamp the grub screws in place. Not the ideal my preference would always be a proper shim in here, but then the problem is if you want to make an adjustment, you'll change the shim. So anyway, we'll leave it as it is. It works. It's worked for 125 years. But I'm going to leave that assembled now. I know where all the bits are then. Okay, it's the next day now. We've got a little package through the post. We've got our not split pins. I keep saying split pins, it's tape pins. I'm turning into an idiot. Alright. I actually passed the reamer through yesterday. I thought I would just check that hole. And it was loose. When I put the reamer in, it was tight in the gear, but it was rattling like that with the shaft. The whole thing is a complete mess. There you go. I got these a bit longer than we needed, but I think that'll work. Good tap on there, and that'll be quite sufficient. What we'll do is we'll cut this off. In fact, what we'll do is we'll knock that in first, and then we'll cut it off, and I can knock it back out and assemble the thing. That's got a little bit further to go. Alright, I shall do that. Alright, I've knocked the pin in now. You can see it's just sunk below the surface. What I might do is I might get some the next size up. I'd prefer that to be sort of flush with, well, just a little bit above the surface of the gear here. It's a little bit below, but I know it's tight fitting. There's no movement in that at all now, which is exactly what we want. Well, I'm just checking that to be sure. I'm just going to give that another tap. Well, it's not going anywhere. Yeah, that's tight. If there's any issues or problems in the future with this, I'll probably make a new shaft. I'll get a new gear for it and refurbish completely. At the moment that's looking pretty good with that taper pin in there. Quite happy with that. Right, I need to cut that off and then knock it through. And that's it done. Assemble then. Excellent. You see I've taken time to clean all the gears out as well, and I've scraped these out as well. They're full of crap. You know how many decades of rubbish have been stuck in there. I cleaned the gears out on here as well. A little pinion wheel there and a big ball wheel. That's done now. Cleaned all these out as well, the slides. So we'll lubricate all them up before we drop the bed back on. But now we've got to put the shaft through, assemble that, put the pin in, knock it home, and then build up from there. Back to how it was. Alright, let's get on with it. Alright, the shaft's in, and the gear's on, and the taper pin is installed. That's the bottom there, you can see. Let's just move it around. Oh sorry, that's the bottom there, sticking out a little bit. Me upside down. Just sits below the head. Like I say, I might get the next size taper pin up and redo that. We can get it better than that. Yeah, I'll get the next size up, I think. I'll sort that out. It's in tight now though, I've hammered it in. So it's not going to fall out. I was going to split the tail and then open it up like a split pin. But I don't think I'll bother with that. It's only a small taper pin, it's not a big one. I think I'll leave it as it is, especially if I'm going to put a bigger one in. But that's going to work for the time being, that is, and we'll see how it performs. If we see it slipping, we know that the thing's dropped out and we've got a problem, we can deal with that. But I think in the future we'd probably make a new shaft and see if I can get a new gear as well. That would be really good. But anyway, we've got to get it running. Alright, we've got the feed clutch mechanism fitted now. That is very positive now, that is. You see the end float we've got there. That's to allow for whatever thickness discs you've got in here, clutch plates, discs. And as they wear, the end float gets bigger. That's the only way you can control that properly. Well, that's okay. This was rattling around before, it really was bad. I've set it where I think it needs to be set, but once we've run for a while, we may need to adjust that. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Okay, right, so that shaft is in. You can see it there. Yeah. What we're going to do now is we're going to build the drive pulleys up here. we can put them on. We can put the mechanism on here, put the belt back on. Alright, the plane is back together again now, everything's reconnected. I haven't put the work on yet. We'll put that back on in a few minutes. We'll give it a try, I'll just show you. Yeah. You can see it's working away there, nice. All these jobs that we've done these last few days have been well worth doing, they needed to be done. We wouldn't have had, we would have had a lot of problems, I think, with the drive to start with. So I'm quite pleased with how it looks now. We'll put that piece of metal back on the bed, clamp it down as it was before, and we'll get back to where we were a few days ago. Start planing that flame cut edge. It's interesting to see how it performs now. Let's see how far we can sort of push the machine a little bit. Now we know we've got a positive drive, and we'll keep an eye on that taper pin. I still think we've got some remedial work for the future. May have to replace that shaft, but we'll see how it goes.